Greetings, I'm Professor Hobo, and welcome to another Hobo Tech Review. Just over a year ago, I reviewed a prototype of the world's first water-resistant all-in-one solar generator. That product, the Montek X-1000, has finally hit the retail shelves. Now, the original prototype did have a few issues. Has this final version fixed those problems? What's different? Let's find out.
HOBOTECH.
The battery inside the Montek X-1000 is a 1010 watt-hour grade A NMC lithium-ion polymer cell rated at 2000 cycles to 80%. As for size and weight, it is 19 by 16 by 5 and rated just under 30 pounds according to my scale, and that does include the solar panel built in. As for build quality, this is a high-impact PC ABS plastic case, and it does have rubber seals that go around all the parts that open up. So there's a rubber seal around here, there's a rubber seal around these doors on each side. So when you button this thing up, it is actually water resistant. That means this is also dust resistant and drop resistant. You can actually drop this onto concrete from several feet without any damage internally. As for the display, it is a color TFT. It does display the charge percentage with an icon, input and output watts, fan and flashlight icons, as well as a temperature, alarm, and error display. As for the inverter, it is on this side behind one of these watertight lids. It is a 1000 watt pure sine inverter with a 2000 watt surge, and that's out of 2 outlets that do have 3 prongs. As for a way to charge the Montek, it's 5 hours from AC wall outlet. There is no power brick. You just need this basic cable. Plugs into the side, and you plug this into the wall or a gas generator or whatever source of AC power you want to charge with. That takes about 5 hours. You can also charge in 3 hours from solar. They do include an MC4 adapter cable, so you can use the internal solar panel or whatever solar panel you want, up to 360 watts, which means this will charge in just under 3 hours under full sun perfect conditions. They also include a 12 volt adapter, so you can charge this from 12 or 24 volt vehicles. It takes about 10 hours from 12 volts and cut that in half for 24 volts. Now with the included 80 watt solar panel, which is right here, it's nicely tucked in the back of the case, it takes about 16 hours to charge from dead because it's only 80 watts. However, the Montek can be charged in under 2 hours using a trick I'll show you here in a little bit. As for 12 volt outputs on the Montek, there are quite a few. First, you get the standard 10 amp cigarette lighter socket output. Then you get two 5521 barrel plug outputs rated at 7 amps. And then you get two 5525 barrel plug outputs rated at 10 amps. So you actually have 5 total 12 volt DC outputs. And yes, these are regulated at 13.8 volts. And that is a change from the prototype. The prototype only had a 13 volt output. Now they made this 13.8, so no problem running refrigerators or any kind of 12 volt appliances. And of course, as I mentioned, this product is impact resistant. And here's a little demonstration from my previous video. Well, let's see here. What's going to be the easiest way to unload the Montek from the back of the truck? Oh, man. Did I do that? This door came open, but it didn't break. A little bit of dirt. Let's turn the AC inverter on and see if the inverter still works. Yeah. Looks like it's fine, besides some scratches. And that was a pretty hard fall from about 1 meter, and this thing is not lightweight. Looks like the majority of the damage is just going to be scratches to the plastic. I scratched this up pretty good, which means it looks like I won't be reselling this anytime soon, so I better find a use for it. The things we do for science. It is also water resistant, almost to the point of waterproof, but this does not have a waterproof rating, so you're not supposed to submerge the unit. However, I did it anyway. Oh, my Montek is dirty. What shall I do? Oh, look, check this out. I can just hose it off. Isn't that cool? So, it's waterproof from every angle. That's pretty clear. But unlike other YouTube channels that just drizzle water on a waterproof product, none of them have done this. It's turned on. I even forgot to turn it off. Check it out. it's still working. You're only going to find nonsense like this on HOBOTECH. Now this can be purchased with or without that internal 80-watt SunPower solar panel. It's a very high quality panel, very weather resistant. You can leave that out in the rain and the sun. It's going to last you a very long time for being a folding panel. However, not everyone's going to want to use an 80-watt panel. Some are you going to want to use your own solar panel. So you can actually buy this a little bit cheaper without the built-in panel. Now the unit does feature both high and low temperature protection and sports internal cable storage. What do I mean by that? Open on this side where I can stick my hand in here. Actually, all these cables will fit inside. You just keep cramming them in there until they all fit. And when you purchase this from Montek and you get it and you're like, where are all my cables? Well, it actually comes with all the cables inside this hole in here. So you got to open it up and get the cables out. Don't think they forgot to ship you the cables, because I originally took this out of the box, the prototype, and I was like, where are the cables? Not realizing they were inside. And Montek does offer a generous 24-month warranty for their solar generator and a 1-year warranty on the solar panel. And of course, I took the Montek X-1000 into my secret laboratory where I performed all kinds of crazy experiments on it. But because I'm short on time, I had to get this review out before my vacation. We only did a single-fisted AC test on the Montek just to see if there was any change in the battery chemistry over the past year. As for the results, the prototype previously scored 85% on the DC output test and 93% on the AC output test. And you can see from the results of the test I just did on the final retail version, the results were a little bit lower than the prototype. The production version scored 910 watt hours out of 1010, or a very respectable 90%. Now this is using the same 250 watt load that I tested the prototype. This tells me that the battery in the Montek has changed since the last year's prototype, and it's not surprising. LG and other name brand manufacturers have changed their market focus, and they're not always selling their cells anymore to smaller companies. And of course, supply chain issues and shortages due to the pandemic, no doubt Montek had to switch to a different brand to sell for the production version. 90% is still much above average across all solar generator brands, and it's actually very good for Montek's first offering. Now it does say in the user manual that it does charge from 12 to 70 volts up to 12 amps, 360 watts maximum. So let's put that to the test. So 12 volts, 12 amps, we're charging at 132 watts. Now, the original prototype version of the X-1000 actually allowed you to charge at 15 amps. There was a big problem with that because people were plugging their Montek into their car using the typical cigarette lighter adapter, and it was pulling 15 amps. Well, people all pay attention when it's pulling 15 amps. It was charging really fast, and they're like, this is great. This is like the fastest charging solar generator when it comes to from a cigarette lighter on the market. And there was a reason for that. Montek designed this to charge at 15 amps, which is beyond what most cigarette lighters in cars can handle. So they weren't necessarily blowing the fuses because most of the fuses are 15 amp. But this part was melting into the sockets. So a lot of people were complaining that the 12 volt on this fried. So Montek in the production version tone this down to 12 amps, which is safe for pretty much any vehicle nowadays. But it's going to save your cigarette lighter socket in the meantime. So it is now limited to 12 amps, not 15 amps when it comes to charging. That's across the board. So even as I turn the voltage up on this, it's still going to hard limit to 12 amps. Okay, Montek says it will charge at up to 70 volts. So let's turn this up to 70 volts and find out. I don't know, 70 volts at 5 amps. We're charging it at exactly 360 watts. I'll try turning up a little bit more, and hopefully it'll just shut down and not burn up. Yep, there we go. It actually blinks and says too high in red. Let's see if I can get that to come back up, because that was pretty funny. Too high. And I know some of you watching this believe that there's no way you could ever get too high.
You want to get high? No, we don't want to get high.
Now what I like here is that it does have auto recovery. You can see here we're at 75 volts. Let me turn the voltage down. Because pretend this is solar. This is basically simulated solar. So we're simulating probably like 4 solar panels in series, okay? And now it goes right back to charging like nothing happened. So if you do over panel the Montek and you sometimes go slightly over voltage, it'll just beep like crazy, let you know, and then as soon as you shade or a cloud or something comes by, it starts charging again on its own, which is very rare because most of these solar generators, once you exceed that voltage, they just shut down. They're just like, hey, you're done. Come turn me back on before I'm going to allow you to do anything else.
Giggity.
Not the Montek. It actually is very well self-regulated. If you try to go over the input watts, it just says 360 watts. That's it, no matter how much I dump in. So you're not going to be surprised. It's going to work exactly as designed. In fact, this is one of the best MPPT controllers on a small generator that I've seen. In this case, we're talking about a 1,000-watt solar generator with some pretty cool safety features. So it's going to be really hard for a lot of you guys to mess this thing up by accidentally plugging in too many solar panels and putting them in series instead of parallel and all that. And you can put some serious juice into this. Now it does limit to 360 watts, but say you want to over panel to 600 watts so that when you're charging on a cloudy day, you'll actually max this out at 360 watts. Totally doable with 6 100-watt panels. And how fast is this charge from just AC wall outlet power? There we go, 207 watts. Now how about simultaneous charging? This does have 2 inputs on it, one DC input and one AC input. What if you plug it into the wall while you charge it with solar or 12 volt at the same time? Well, holy Moses, can you see that? It says 567 watts input. So yes, this does support simultaneous AC and DC charging. So that means if you want to charge this from 360 watts of solar while you charge it with a gas generator or plugged into the wall or from your inverter in your vehicle at the same time, because you're in a hurry, you want to charge this fast, it's absolutely possible. This charges at almost 570 watts in simultaneous charging mode, which means you can charge this in less than 2 hours from 0 to full. That's pretty fast for something this size. And when charging with AC wall power, how loud are the fans? A very quiet 46 decibels. DC output rate check. We're going to now test the DC outputs to see how much power can you get out of it. Now, on the prototype version, they did allow you to pull 15 amps before becoming a problem. Let's see if the retail version's any different. First, all the 12 volt DC outputs on this are regulated at 13.8 volts. So it doesn't matter if you're plugging into the 5521 ports or the cigarette lighter port, they're all 13.8. And they all do share the same circuitry. So let's go ahead and try to max this out from the cigarette lighter port and see what we get. Have our fancy little charger, it says 13.8 volts right there. Let's go ahead and start this. So it's taken 13 amps without complaining. So let's bump it up to 14. All right, we're at 14 amps and it's still not complaining. That's 172 watts. 15 amps. 16 is overloaded. Okay, that seems to be the maximum limit, 16.5 amps. And it says over here, 242 watts. Montek does state in the manual that there is a 256 watt limit on the DC output on this. So all DC sources combined cannot exceed 256 watts. The Montek does have a single 100 watt USB-C power delivery port, which is pretty good because most of the time you get 60 watts on something this size. So I have it plugged into my handy dandy power bin, and as you can see, it is charging at 100 watts. If you can make it out right there under my finger, it says 93, 94 watts. Inverter capacity test. We're going to test and see, does the production version of the inverter on the X1000 match the prototype? Are there any differences? And of course, in order to test that, we're going to use the solar degenerator. First, let's show you the sine wave. It looks really good. 120 volts at 60 hertz. Now that's the proper voltage for an inverter in the United States. It should be 120 volts. A lot of these companies do 110 or 115, when 120 is the proper voltage. So that's a good start already for the X1000. Solar degenerator, take one. We're now at, according to the Montek, 1,040 watts. And this says 968. That's about right, because there's always going to be a difference between the inverter and what is coming out. Now the prototype version was able to handle 1,100 watts, so let's see if the retail version can handle 1,100. And there we are, we're just past 1,100 watts. It actually shows up in yellow. If you can't tell on the screen, it's actually yellow once you pass 1,000 watts. Let's go ahead and push it a little harder. Let's see if it'll do 1,200. Oh, there we go. It says overload, 2 words. Let's try that again. 1175. And 1,200. Let's see how long we can hold it. So about 5 seconds at 1,200 watts. That is pretty much identical to what we had in the prototype. So the Montek production model was able to do exactly what the prototype did. 1,100 watts pretty much indefinitely, and then 1,200 watts for about 5 seconds. So it seems like they did not change the inverter at all in the production model, which is good because that inverter was very good. I was impressed by it a year ago, and I'm still impressed by it today. Now we're going to do the 5-minute sustained cooling, or what I call the heat soak test. We're going to go ahead and run this at 1,100 watts, since that seems to be the inverter maximum, for at least 5 minutes and see, does it shut down? Does it overheat? Do we get any kind of warnings? So let's do it. And there we have it, 5 minutes at 1,100 watts. So I take this opportunity now while the inverter fan is running to go ahead and measure the decibels from a meter away. About 59, 60 decibels. And as the fan slows down, it gets quieter. As you can hear, the fan is slowly winding down as it cools off. It gets to the point where the fans will completely shut off. I do have the inverter still turned on, there's no load. That's the type of sound you can expect coming out of this. It does use a small fan, which is a little on the loud side, but it's not high-pitched or disturbing in any way. Seems like once you remove the high load, it winds down pretty quickly. It took maybe about a minute to go from full speed to almost completely off. Now everyone's favorite question since 2019 is, does the Montek X1000 support pass-through charging? In other words, can you plug it into the wall and charge it while you use it? Or can you charge it with solar while you use the AC and DC outputs? Well, let's see. Here's the AC input from the wall, plugging it into the Montek. Here's DC plugged in. I do have AC plugged in and turned on, so we have AC inverter, and we're charging from the wall at just over 200 watts. So yes, it does support AC pass-through charging. Now what about solar pass-through charging? Let's try it. Okay, so now we're pushing 12 amps at 12 volts into the Montek. It's charging at just over 130 watts, and it's showing AC and DC still outputting. So yes, this does support both AC and DC pass-through charging. Amp interference test. Let's see if this high-frequency inverter causes noise through a typical small power amp. It's powered on. And this result is not really a surprise. These tiny inverters and these small solar generators usually put out noise because they are high-frequency inverters. If you want a low-frequency inverter, you need usually bulk, something big and heavy with big transformers in it. Smaller generators, almost all of them fail this test. So not really a surprise from the Montek. That means you're probably not going to be powering your band with this tiny little suitcase kit. Now, what review would be complete without talking about the built-in flashlight? Of course, you have the typical on, which, yes, this is going to be a very convenient flashlight for you to be carrying around, you know, when you need to actually find that keyhole in the dark. It's going to be very useful. Even more useful is the other feature on this light. We all know what this is for. Really, guys, can we give up the SOS on these flashlights? It's really completely unnecessary. Now, one of the things that have been corrected in the retail product is the percentage display of the battery. In the prototype, anytime you applied a load, that number would fluctuate. It's dropping down. It says 91% now. I'm running a 500 watt load. Now it says 90%. I bet you if I increase the load even more, see, now it says 84%. Shut the generator off and watch, the percentage just magically goes right back up again. So I got the solar degenerator in hand right here. Let's go ahead and turn it on and off a few times, put it under load, and watch that percentage for the battery. No change at all. So they did actually fix the battery meter on this, which was my #1 gripe with the prototype. I'm sure you guys have no interest in seeing the inside of this, right? Okay, I didn't think so. We'll just go ahead and wrap it up. Just kidding. I know you want to see the inside. That's all people seem to ask for nowadays. So I've already taken the 8 screws out to get to this metal pan that is sealed in there to make it water resistant. This is the heat shield over the battery. I'm not going to take that off. In fact, this is the best you're going to see of the inside. We got the inverter here with some heat sinks. We have the inlet and outlet fans. And of course the switches and the circuit board for all the externals. Pretty basic stuff. And this is the cavity where you put all the cables in from the outside. So the air actually passes through here, through this fan, past these heat sinks, and then out. So what do I like about the Montek? What's not to like? The retail version fixed all the issues of the prototype that I reviewed last year, and it's now a rock star product. And for the price, it's kind of hard to beat. For about the same cost as that old chestnut JACKERY 1000, you get a water-resistant, drop-resistant, 1000-watt SoGen that can carry its own solar panel internally. The battery is great, the inverter is great, the DC output is fantastic, and it can charge in under 2 hours if you need it to. The biggest upside of the Montek, of course, is that it's tough and water-resistant. While that might not make sense to some of you, imagine if you need power on a boat while you're fishing, to run a fridge or lights at nighttime, or while hunting to keep your lunch warm or run a heating pad. Or how about on a work site? You can literally throw the Montek in the back of your truck and use it to charge tool batteries or run work lights or whatever, and not worry about hurting it. Imagine you're camping and it started raining, everything has turned to mud. Are you going to risk your sensitive Bluetti in all that muck, or are you going to take something that you can just hose off when you're done? If you do a lot of off-roading like I do you really want to take a SoGen that if it falls over it's going to break? Or do you want to take the tough as nails Montek and say, hey, don't worry about it? Now, what do I not like about the Montek? Well, my only leftover gripe from the prototype are the proprietary charge cables. These are custom cables. You can't just go buy these at the store and replace them. They got a special end on it. It's waterproof. It's not really a big deal. Just don't damage or lose them. While the unit is water resistant while charging from 12 volts or solar, it is not while charging from AC power because you have to actually open this lid in order to charge it from AC power. And also when the outputs are being used, you have to open one of these side panels. Again, it's not really water resistant anymore, but I doubt anyone's going to be sitting out in a downpour charging their $1,000 phone in the rain. Probably the biggest complaint I heard from the prototype unit was that the 80-watt panel inside is just too small, and customers wished it was 100 watts or 120 watts. Now I completely agree. Montek does have plans to build a larger 2,000 watt unit sometime down the road, who knows how long that's going to take, but that one should hold a larger panel. Although it will be considerably heavier, the X-1000 as it sits is that perfect size and weight to be something you can just toss in the car and not give it a second thought. When power stations get much bigger than this, they become a lot more burdensome to lug around. Now, product price. Montek is offering HOBOTECH viewers a special $100 off discount code for a limited time from the Montek Solar Store. The current price is competitive with other models of a similar size. Since prices change often and this video could be watched years from now, if you're interested to know how much it costs, click the link in the description, apply the promo code, and you'll see how much it costs. Now, as for competition, there are billions and billions,
10 billion, billions
of 1,000-watt power stations on the market today, but none of them can be dropped off the back of a truck and dunked in a hot tub and survive to tell their story, which puts the Montek literally in a class by itself. Now, who's this product for? If you're looking for a home backup solution or something to run air conditioners or hair dryers, the Montek is not for you. If you're the adventurous type that's out in the weather, or you're just a total klutz like myself that drops everything all the time, then you may want to look into the X-1000. And for recommended solar, the Montek can take a wide range of voltages, which means it can support just about any solar panel out there, from 12 to 70 volts. And it supports up to 360 watts of input. This means you can run a pair of Bouge RV or Rich Solar 200 watt panels in series with no problem and still expect to get low to mid 300 watts during most sunny days. Of course, you can over panel and add panels to that as long as you don't exceed the 70 volts. Now, if you're interested in Bouge RV or Rich Solar panels, click the link below in the description to hobotech.tv for the best prices on the internet for Bouge RV and Rich Solar. And if you're interested in the Montek X-1000, the link is in the description below this video with the promo code. So be sure to add that promo code to get an extra $100 off. That promo code is for a limited time. If you're watching this video 6 months after it comes out, that code might not work. This thing might be billions and billions of dollars by then. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, don't forget to give me that thumbs up below. And if you're not a subscriber already, and why wouldn't you be? You know what to do. That's it for now. Till next time.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe. And clean my litter box.
For those of you that did not catch my live stream, I'll let everybody know now that I will be heading out to Quartzsite, Arizona for our annual desert camping trip in a few days. And I'm not bringing work with me this year. I'm out there to have a good time. This time I'm going out there just to have fun. I'm not going to try to do any work. But I'm not abandoning the channel. Expect different kinds of videos over the next month, including a bunch of live streams. I'm going to do live streams not every night, but a few times a week. I also have plans to do a solar update on my van and a few other DIY style videos while I'm out there. Low-key, short, quick videos. That is until I return home to a very large queue of fast dating products, which, by the way, I'm already booked from March through April. I will be bringing Odin with me on this trip, so stay tuned for information about our camp if you wish to come meet us. Thor is going to be staying home under armed guard to make sure he stays out of trouble.
RV Golf Guy, Medic Audio Repair, Andrew Vaughn, Roger Cardano, Brian Lewis, Johnson, Jason Soroka, Dr. Steve Eisenberg.